wonderful. Again, thank you everybody for joining. I am Lauren from WINC. I run the Northeast, so my states are Maine to New Jersey. I just wanted to give you just a little bit about myself and about WINC to get started. I do have a special guest. Our winemaker is going to pop on for a few minutes. He's going to spare some time. So it's really exciting. You don't just have to listen to me wax on poetically for an hour. But I've been in wine pretty much my entire professional career. Started, of course, as many people do in the hospitality industry, and worked, to bartender and those sort of things. And I was living in Los Angeles at the time and had opened a bar called Sonoma Wine Garden, not me personally, but as a staff member. And that's sort of where I found my love for wine. It started with California wine. And then it's of course moved more Provence and in Italy as I get my information and education going. But certainly my beginning of all my career was California wine. So it's pretty suitable that I'm with a California wine company. After that, we did sort of start with WINC pretty much right after that. WINC, as you guys might know, is also a membership. That's how some people know WINC. I will say that has sort of morphed. So WINC, was in such high demand that we were able to move to distribution. I was the second hire. We didn't have a distributor, so I moved to New York City, like knocking on doors, like thinking this was a completely normal thing. No distributor, no wines anybody ever heard of, like with a face no one's ever seen in New York City. It was insanely crazy, but I guess maybe the fact that ignorance is bliss kind of works for me there. In about 5 years though, we've now grown WINC, and I was one employee, the first employee. Now we are in all 50 states distributed, huge amount of success. And now the membership the website isn't really what it was. Instead, it's sort of like a jump off point where we kind of test the market, see what everybody likes, and then move it to distribution. So the wines you're going to have right now, I just like to cover this stuff because sometimes people have questions about WINC in particular, are not on the site. So these are not membership wines. You can't get them on the site and anything like that. It is only available to you on the store.
That's a good point to bring up because, we've had, before we open up the store, and full disclosure, we tell people this all the time, before we open the store, we tested out a few different wine clubs that are out there. WINC was the only one that really stood out and delivered quality products.
Great.
On a consistent basis with each shipment that we got. We enjoyed doing them. So at the retail level, especially here in Connecticut, when WINC's wine started showing up at some of our distributors, like, oh, wow, this is great. Particularly, and I mentioned it to Brenda before we started, was Summer Water. Summer Water was probably one of the first wines that I recognized popping up into Connecticut.
Yeah.
And I'm like, here we go. This is great. Now more and more are starting to filter into distributors around here, which is great. I know somebody on social media last night was talking about WINC, and I said it's probably one of the only ones I endorse if somebody's going to do a wine club, mail order wine club. But first and foremost, we have our own wine club, so please subscribe to ours too as well.
Of course.
But if you're looking for something else, WINC does do a really solid job with everything that they put out. And it's a good brand recognition thing too. You see the WINC label on there, or the declaration on the back. It's a go-to. Like in many cases, when you're looking for a winemaker, wine importer, it's a good like cheat sheet when you're trying to pick out a wine with brand recognition. So
that's a huge compliment to me. As I mentioned, just 5 years ago, I with a backpack of wine, like period. So the fact that now you guys are seeing it and that means something of a consistency and quality, I'm like, I could get emotional about it. This company's my baby, basically. So that's a huge compliment. And I thank you for that. But yeah, Summer Water, of course, not to get too much into it, but of course it's kind of like a runaway success story. And so we're really proud of that wine too. But Porter and Plot's really fun as we sort of segue in. There was a time that there was some Porter and Plot on the site. It is a higher valued wine, on the pocketbook than some of our others. We stay on an average sort of on the site. So this was sort of a luxury item since the birth of the brand, but they didn't have, it was like a Sauv Blanc at the time and maybe an Albarino. So it wasn't any of these guys, but we decided that we liked the idea, and the idea of Porter and Plot is sort of like small lot wineries, wineries, because we do rent lot. We don't have our own chateau, as I'm sure you guys are realizing. That's sort of the change in in all of the wine industry, but
Right.
particularly in California. People just can't pull out millions of dollars to buy a chateau in California, or a lot. So so we kind of rent lot, and our winemakers absolutely make all the wine. Don't get us wrong, but so this is small lot, rented and beautifully curated. We wanted, as I'm sure you guys can tell by the bottles, they over deliver for the price point. You know, they look stunning. Exactly. The Chardonnay, I'm sure you guys all have.
Yeah, if you have the Chardonnay, everybody, pour that in your glass first.
Yeah.
Again, I told you, take it out of the fridge 20 minutes before, pouring it. I had mine outside all day overnight. I mean, this thing's still chilled down.
Yeah, great.
Before we turn this, allowed everybody in the room, Brandon and Carol and I were talking, I mean, the packaging alone stands out. It's classy. It's just a great overall package. I mean, the brand itself, I mean, I'd love to see this on, we were talking, I'd love to see this on a bunch of restaurants downtown New Haven, just because of how it just stands out like this. And
yeah, exactly.
Luckily the juice inside's really good too. And
exactly.
that's a double banger. You can have a great packaging, but I mean, what's the juice inside? And luckily, when Murphy came around and poured it for all of us, Carol and I, if you can convince Carol on a Chardonnay, it's a home run. And
great. I love that.
She's a tough cookie on Chardonnay. She really is. She's a deciding factor on a lot of them.
Oh, well, I love that.
Yeah, as you pour that in your glass, I mean, really take a look at this. And as Lauren was talking about, all these small plots, really define what the end result is. So where a lot of people have that misconception of how Chardonnay should taste, oh, it's oaky, it's buttery. Taste this. This leans neither way. It's like right down the middle. It's so focused and tight. It's real precise on my palate, at least.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Yeah, because it's sort of can go one or the other. It can go very unctuous, which, listen, that's fine if that's your thing, but that sort of becomes a buttered popcorn scenario, a little more less than wine, or you can do the unoaked, no mallow, and then that's great, but that's a lot more fruit forward and more acidity. So to kind of have the best of both worlds is definitely this wine. Really quick, would this be a good time to bring in Robert?
Yeah, if he's available. So we have a special guest. Lauren brought in the actual winemaker for Porter and Plot, Robert. Is he?
Yep. So we have two head winemakers. One's Ryan Zodovich. He's the one that gets the most. He was our first, but Bobby D is his best friend. And so as we became very, much larger than we were 5 years ago, they're now the two co-winemakers, and they're just incredible. So I'm always happy to have one of them come. It's really nice. California time. Who even knows what they're doing? I don't even want to see their sunshine. Hopefully we don't have to.
Yeah, it's not even fair. It's not even
fair. But it should say Robert Doherty when he's waiting for you.
In the meantime, everybody's sipping on their Chardonnay as I try to find Robert through this. Type in what you're tasting, what you're smelling, what you're tasting. Again, you get a little creaminess on there, but you get that little fruit, you get a little like lemon meringue on it. That doesn't get too sweet as far as fruit, but.
And I do have the tech sheets for this. So maybe once he pops off, I'll show everybody the technical information on this, or I can do it now, but I hate to share my screen because then you guys can't see Bobby when he comes on. So again, I'm realizing I should have just had him come on at 6.
There he is.
Oh, perfect.
So welcome to the group, Robert. I'm just trying to connect his audio. Robert, how are you today?
Nope.
You got to unmute.
There you go.
There we go. How about now?
Yeah.
There you go.
I think I figured it out.
Hi.
All right, here we go. We're ready.
Robert, thanks for joining us here in Connecticut from California.
How's it going, Lauren?
It's good. Good. It's cold. We're all about to have a big snowstorm. Yeah. I know. So don't show us the sunshine. We don't care.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna brag too much, but yeah, it's pretty nice here. I'm not gonna lie. I'll rub it in your face as much as I want. So. Well, thank you all for letting me join. I'm only gonna be on for a few minutes, but I appreciate you giving me the chance to just pop in and say hi.
I just want to myself and wink a little bit. Everybody has the Porter and Plot Chard in their glass at the moment. I figured you could kind of just go through what Porter and Plot means to you, and a little bit about yourself, and then go ahead and pop off. I can handle the rest.
Yeah, Porter and Plot to me is really about over delivering at a lower price point, right? really like a high-end wine that is at like a BTG price, which I really think Porter and Plot delivers on that in that regard. Like if I'm going to speak specifically about Porter and Plot Chardonnay, Porter and Plot Chardonnay like has really obvious aromas. It's kind of a mix between that hedonistic California approach of Chardonnay and that reserved high acid European approach. So it's about finding a good balance between those two. And I personally feel like that's the right place to be for a Chardonnay that over delivers in the domestic market. That paired with its presentation as well, right? I mean, you have a beautiful bottle that is, screen printed. It's got the wax top. It really like, you bring that to a party and like your friends are going to be stoked on it, not just aesthetically, but then you pop it open, you're like, oh wow, this has a lot of fruit aroma. This has a really like obvious but integrated oak, and it has a good crisp long finish. It's about finding that good balance. And I feel that to me, it's like Porter and Plot, each varietal is about being varietically correct, but varietically correct plus, right? A little bit more sexiness, a little bit more plushness, but just like, again, over delivering at the price point from an aesthetic perspective and from a juice perspective. So that's Porter and Plot to me. Is everybody
I think it hits all those bullet points. I think it hits all those bullet points. I mean, you could just make a Chardonnay from California and you get that result like Kendall Jackson and so on and so forth. But this exceeds that so much. I mean, just in the glass. Take away the packaging, and the juice is fantastic. It's just beautiful Chardonnay, really beautiful Chardonnay. Again, exceeds that price point you put it at.
Yeah, and to me, like, I really like what the key to that is, where I think a lot of people aren't tapping into, is taking the page out of the European book, right? Doing something that's a little bit crisper, a little bit fresher. And it's so weird to me that like these high-end Chardonnays are focusing so much on butter, focusing so much on oak, so much on these like really rich aromas. And it's like, if you just balance that properly with the ripeness that we can achieve in California, and then we're just balance that, in a European way. And that's my background is making wines from producers in the United States that mimic European producers. So it's like, that's kind of where I come from. So it's just like, it surprises me that like a lot of these producers like Kendall Jackson aren't leaning more into these fresher, higher acid things, but using, California, we like big wines, it's like kind of finding a balance between the two. So that's what Porter and Plot does across the board.
Totally agree.
So how'd you come to your decision to pull from like Central Coast for your Chardonnays, for your Pinot Noirs?
Well, Central Coast, depending on where you're on the Central Coast, there's a couple key areas that are really clutch, especially for Chardonnay production. One of them is going to be like the Santa Rita Hills, which, is influenced by like, you have the San Rafael Mountains and the San Ynez Mountains. You have an ocean channel that flows through there, and you get a lot of fog influence. And when you go into Santa Maria, which the majority of this wine's from Santa Maria, you get a similar fog influence. So what you get is a residual fog that hangs out, usually probably burns off like 11, 12 a.m. But what that does is it extends the ripening period and maintains natural acidity. So you get a long ripening period, and it is California. So it is hot, meaning I can get the sugars I want, but it's going to take me longer to get there, which helps retain that natural tartaric acid. So if I'm looking for a wine that can kind of hedge that American ripeness with the European acidity, that's the place to do it, because you get both of those things there: long ripening period, and then a residual fog that hangs out long enough for these tartaric acids to not naturally drop out in the vineyards.
Yeah, I mean, this is like a proving ground just for great Chard and Pinot. I think people, I don't know whether they necessarily overlook this region of California. Maybe they're so centered on Napa and Sonoma just for cabs and Chards, but this is my go-to region for these two varietals. Just like when you're talking about French wines, you're just going to Burgundy for Chardonnay and Pinot. I mean, there's other places in France to get great Pinot and Chard, but if you want, what I'm talking about, that's the go-to place right now.
I couldn't agree more. I majority of my winemaking career has been in Santa Barbara County, and there's so many microclimates in there that like I can find a lot of stuff. There's great growing regions all across California, but you know, with WINC, it's about, we're working with much more than Santa Barbara County fruit. So for us, it's about matching the correct style with the correct region. Central Coast works for Porter and Plus Chard. You know, that's its home. And I think we've you know, locked in there, and it's a great place to be for those reasons. But you know, if I did want something a little bit sexier, maybe I would go to a hotter region. But I don't. I want that balance for this one.
Yeah, I mean, it's like right down the middle. We talk about balance. It's right there. Nothing overshines each other, and just really well put together. It comes together right at the finish. Really well. I mean, you're looking at the chat room, and everybody's just loving the Chard. How much oak do you use for this?
I like to hover around like 30 to 40%, and that's gonna change vintage in and vintage out. But that's my sweet spot. Once you start playing around with that more, I think you start getting more into overpowering like the natural varietal characteristics of Chardonnay. Chardonnay is pretty versatile anyway. It's going to eat up quite a bit of oak, but I don't like to go more than that. Any more than that, and I start feeling like it is a bit out of balance.
Yeah. Oh, great.
Yeah,
go ahead.
No, I'm just saying great.
Yeah. No, it's a great representation of the varietal from this region.
Absolutely.
And again, when we talk about that, it's getting people to really identify. You can go up and down from north to south, California, even going into Washington State, Oregon, anywhere in the United States. It's really about identifying what style of a particular varietal that you like. So for everybody just to dismiss Chardonnay, and as I'm reading comments in here, you know, this is a Chardonnay I could drink. This is really nice. Right, because we're so saturated in the market, whether it's the restaurant or, you know, some of the bigger box retailers, of just bad Chardonnay, bad representation of California Chardonnay that, you know, just pull from bulk juice. Then when you taste something like this from a specified region, it's very different. You know, it's got that nice balance to it. And, you know, again, going back to just my palate, I love Chard Pinots from this region. And just for that reason, they're lighter, they're not over extracted, they're not bombastic fruit or oak, butter, anything. The Pinots you can actually see through, they're not dark and saturated with Syrah or anything, you know, like some of the other guys out there. They're just really well done. And for people to sit there and say, wow, this is different. What's so different about this? Oh, this comes from Arroyo Seco. This comes from Santa Lucia, St. Louis Obispo. You know, pick and choose what you like. You sit there, it's a representation of where these wines are grown and where they're made and who's making them. You know, it's just like any artist painting a picture, writing a story, making a movie. It's just representation of that person and the tools he's given to create this art in the glass you're tasting right now.
And even outside of you know, the juice itself, which to me, of course, is the core of what we're doing. Right? Like I'm the winemaker. I like to put good juice in there. Like what I love that Porter and Plot as a brand does is I'm big on bringing wine into the cultural fold. And there's like a lot of problems with that. Like when you get into higher price points, like you start to alienate people. But like here's a bottle that, like I said, looks nice, has the wax on it, but it's like not at a price point that is going to alienate like your average consumer. And wine so often alienates the average consumer, and it absolutely shouldn't. Again, to harken back to European wines, like it's a part of the cultural fold, and I want to bring that here. And Porter and Plot like does that. It's like it also gives you like some elegance, right? Like that label is attractive, or that screen printing is attractive. That wax, who doesn't love a wax bottle? And you can do that affordably.
Right. No, we were talking about that, you know, before I cut into it today. I was, you know, planning for the worst but hoping for the best. You know, my experience with wax tops, you know, I just gouged my hand with the end of the knife, but came off relatively easy. No battle scars today, but it's a great packaging. And talking to Brandon, it's like, why aren't most restaurants pouring this when you have so many other brands out there that are just putting, you know, Napa Chard, or, you know, there's a bunch of big conglomerates out there, you know them, we all know them. And they're at the restaurant level. It's like, why? And again, with people in the chat room, it's ask your restaurants. If you like something you're tasting, whether it's with us or anywhere else, talk to the restaurants about it. Say, I've had the Chardonnay. You really should ask about it. You know, I do the same thing with a lot of sommeliers I follow on social media. I'm like, you should try this. If you think that's good, you should try this. You know, ask the rep at Murphy, ask, you know, whatever. You should really try this. Yeah, somebody's asking about price point. I think we're at 16 for this, which is, it's ridiculous to get Chardonnay at this quality at this price point. It's ridiculous. It's fantastic.
Exactly. And like there's something like romantic to me about the pageantry of opening a wax top. And like it's a no-brainer to me for BTG to come up, pour a wax top bottle for your customer. Like that's a beautiful thing, you know, at that price point.
Right.
So,
Table side. It's a great presentation.
exactly.
Excellent.
Awesome.
Anybody, go ahead.
Oh, no, I was going to say, I know you only had about 10 or 15 minutes. I don't want to keep you long. If there's anything that you wanted to mention, I can obviously cover off on Pinot and Cab, but if there was one nugget more that you wanted to give, I know that you're in a little bit of a time crunch.
Yeah, you know, I really just want to open it up to the floor. I got to run right now. I appreciate you guys taking me the time, but if you have any questions for me right now before I leave, I'd love to field 3-4 questions, and then I can bounce off. If not, I'll bounce off. So.
And I can text you too, maybe, and get some
Cool.
like real time if they come up later, maybe. I don't know.
Cool. No worries. Again, I just appreciate y'all taking the time to taste with us. So it means a lot.
So sweet.
Yeah,
Sweet.
Robert, no, I appreciate it. I really appreciate you coming on to us, taking the time out on Sunday to do this with us.
Of course,
everybody
of
to
course.
your wines.
I'm a little upset y'all are working on Sundays, man. Come on, relax, chill out.
Well, so this is
question. Quick question. Are you doing it all oak for the Chardonnay? Are you doing all oak, or are you doing steel and then oak?
You know, I like to land about 30 to 40% new oak. And what that usually means is I have a combination of brand new oak barrels, neutral oak barrels, and stainless steel. But then my blended average then falls around 30-40% new. So it's actually a blended combination of all three really like main elements you use to get to that oak percentage.
Okay. Yeah. So you're really trying to control the amount of oak by blending like that.
Correct. And like by doing things in those separate vessels, new oak, neutral, and stainless steel, that means I can nail my new oak percentage every time, you know, within the blending process.
Nice.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Thank you.
Of course.
Yeah, and then you taste it in the glass. I mean, you taste that precision in the glass. I mean, there's a lot of attention to detail with this wine. Again, it's under $20. I mean, going back to what you said, Robert, I mean, we have a Trisani Montrachet on the shelf. I mean, it's $50. I can't afford it, you know, for every day. But for people to experience stuff like that is amazing. And just what you're doing is great. To have people experience Chardonnay at this level is fantastic. This style, everything. And to come in at that price point, it's affordable for everybody. And it's something to really look at. It's from small plots, and we're big on that instead of the big box conglomerates, because this has more character, more identity to it. It's really indicative of where these grapes are grown and everything.
I love hearing that. Thank you. All right.
Awesome. Thank you so much. You're incredible.
Appreciate it. Thank you. I hope you all have a good rest of your Sunday, and we'll catch you soon.
See you soon, Robert. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.
What an angel. All right. I think you, okay. Love him. Like, does he know how to use technology? It's hard to say. He's wonderful. I hope you guys got to enjoy that. It's a rarity. We, you know, they work so hard, him and Ryan, that we actually didn't get in the habit of inviting them to I think he was thinking this was a staff training. I don't know if you maybe put that together. But typically we didn't really do that just because, you know, I guess we're 3,000 miles away, but
Right.
But just maybe 6 months ago, we started thinking, like, what are we doing? We have these incredible guys making these incredible wines. Like, let's make them a part of this. And so Bobby D is like, and has joined me on so many. He's like so willing, so happy, and has so much information. So it's been a real blessing that we've kind of turned the corner on that. And I think he'd be happy to do this again. So if you guys ever do another WINC, I'm sure he'd be more than happy. But yeah, moving forward, if there are questions, technical information, questions that maybe I can't totally answer, which I should be able to, but if I can't, I'll text him and hopefully we'll get real live text back.
Now, Lauren, how many female winemakers do you have doing wines for you?
Well, so it's just Ryan and Bobby.
No, I mean for this, I mean in the whole WINC arsenal. In your library of wine.
That's all. There are two winemakers. They have a team.
Oh,
There's
okay.
Right. A couple underneath them, but yeah, Ryan was first, as I mentioned, Summer Water Folly, all those.
Okay.
He handmade, that's all of his wines.
Wow. Okay.
So
Okay.
yeah, it's actually not like a group, and I can understand why, because there's so much diversity
Yeah.
on the online portfolio, but
Yes.
it's really just those two guys. It's
Okay.
really incredible. I wish I could say that we had female winemakers, of course. Wish I could say that, you know, we have persons of color winemakers as well, but we are of course very happy with Bobby and Ryan, and we're
Yeah.
not gonna kick them out of
No. Right.
whatever. But I wish there wasn't a different answer there. But there are two girls on the team, but they're certainly not the winemakers.
No. All right. So
yeah,
both of those gentlemen are winemakers for everything.
Yeah,
domestically. Yeah. Obviously just for domestic.
Yeah. And before Bobby was on, it was just Ryan, which if you can like,
right.
Insane.
And that's an even bigger undertaking to come up with that many different brands and all different stylistically.
Exactly. And then I think that that's sort of a part of the reason why we never bugged Ryan to do these.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah, they had a lot on their plate, and they still do, of course, but the sort of beauty of January and February.
Right.
We have summer water rolling out, but it is the slowest time.
Right.
So they have a little bit more wiggle room with these things. So it was a perfect timing to have them on. But I want to just quickly show you, if I could share my screen, because I did make a tech sheet stuff for this. So I figure maybe if you have some more technical questions about these wines, I'll do Chardonnay. I described a little bit what malolactic fermentation is. For those that don't know, then we can pop off. We can do the Pinot together, and then I can share the tech sheet. I don't really know how to do it any other way. I'm sorry.
No, that's great.
Laborious, but I'm kind of like so cold. I feel like the snow is like about to be here. For some reason, I'm freezing. How do I share my screen when I'm not the host?
You're the co-host.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's right there.
You can do the same way.
Like, what am I thinking? Sometimes I'm a millennial, and sometimes I'm definitely not one. It's so weird.
Yeah, I resort to my 17-year-old son for any tech questions right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 34. Like, I should be able to handle Zoom, but like, I can't. Okay, so I think I just did it. Really quick, I will make this full. I think this is what I do. Yeah, nailed it. Okay, so I get still very congratulatory with myself when I do technology. This is the Central Coast AVA. This is, I would say for the most part, I would say 90% of WINC wines are from Central Coast. So that is the wheelhouse. Ryan grew up in Santa Barbara, so did Bobby D. So they are like, you know, Central Coast boys. So this is a nice little map I wanted to show you. The AVA on the Chard, due to flavor profile and availability and price point, is the full Central Coast. So we, picked and chose from a few. The reds are actually site specific, Paso Robles and Santa Barbara, which you'll see later. But this is the tech sheet for the Chard. So you guys had certainly a few questions about the Malo or the new French oak, so it's there for you. And I love it. Kind of gets into really serious wine questions if you have it. You'll see the soil, you'll see the farming and the elevation there for those that need it. And then obviously the tasting notes, which we already discussed pretty well, but obviously the cedar, the lemon, whetstone. I obviously did still get some vanilla, Malo, obviously. And then the food pairings there on the right. You're welcome to take a look, but I think we pretty much went over all of, the Chard pretty well. I did want to just show what a malolactic fermentation is. I'm sure you guys all know if you drink Chardonnay, but
that's the same graphic I use for my classes.
It is?
Yeah, I use that
Wine
for
Folly?
Yep. The little
I love that. I love Wine Folly. I think they do an incredible job.
Great job. Yep.
Are like the best in the biz. That's so funny, but I actually did include a little. WINC has their own blog post about malolactic. It's very in-depth, so I just put that there in case anybody's interested in going a little bit deeper into what that means. It sort of shows it, in a very technical way, but for everybody, it is when bacteria sort of converts the tart malic acid into lactic acid. Yeah, that's right. But it's pretty cool. I mean, I can't really conceptualize it, but it's pretty awesome when it happens. So obviously most all reds have that, and it's a sort of secondary fermentation that happens after the first fermentation of obviously making alcohol. This happens right after that. Most reds have it, and then of course the more unctuous whites will choose to go. Obviously you can forego it by killing off that bacteria for like crisp whites like Sancerre or Pinot Grigio or something. But I will stop sharing my screen. What am I doing? How do I do this? Oh, here we go. Congratulating myself again.
Perfect.
Oops, or am I still sharing?
Nope, you're good.
Okay, cool. Let me just get back to you guys. Great. Okay, so I guess it's time to move to Pinot Noir. I think we've been on Chardonnay for so long. Sorry for those that aren't white wine drinkers. We've been drinking Chard for 35 minutes, but.
Yeah, I don't see anybody complaining about drinking this Chard for those that have it.
Yeah,
It's really enjoyable.
And I know it can be really Chardonnay. You either love it or hate it. Like there's no in between. So
it's one of those divisive grapes. It's we even hesitate. We have our own wine club and we hesitate, and we taste some great Chardonnays. We're so hesitant to put that into the 6-pack club that
because of people pushing back on it.
They push back on it heavily. It's like, nah, it's too oaky. And you sit there and you try to convince them, no, it's not. You really need to try this. Nope, don't want it. But the same could be said for rosés. And when that season comes up, we'll hear it nonstop. I don't want anything sweet.
Not cougar juice.
Yeah.
Yeah, this isn't just what Carol said.
There you go. I love that. Nope, it's not.
Nope.
I know it's sort of like one of those things with Chard though, more than anything else. Like once you shut the door on Chardonnay, it's like I find that people like can't reopen that door. But it's so weird because Chardonnay is still the most purchased white wine grape. So I guess if you love it, you just only drink it, because it still is the highest selling white varietal in the world, which is interesting. Sauv Blanc is like officially at its tail for like the first time ever. I think maybe 2020 is the first time it's sort of like hitting the Chardonnay, it's doing this, which is pretty cool. But anyway, Pinot Noir. I hope everybody was able to pour themselves some Pinot. Again, as Bobby put it so eloquently, these brands are stylistically accurate. I want to say perfect, but that's not really that fair to say. I'm a little biased of opinion, but you're drinking a California Pinot. This is what it tastes like.
Yes.
You're gonna get your nice see-through color. You're gonna get your raspberry, your forest floor, all that great stuff. Oh, really quick. I wanted to show you guys, for those like wild enthusiasts, I have this pool text. I don't know if you guys do that at home, but it's a red wine aroma kit. So
no, I have not seen it.
I'm like selling pool texts over here. It's really cool. It comes like with a little. I know they should be paying me. They come some little guide, but then the box is like this. If you guys can see. It's all the red wine. This is just the red wine kit. There's a much larger one that comes with white wine, red wine, and everything, or you can just section them off. I did red because I find being able to just go through the grocery store, picking up lemons, peaches, is kind of the same thing. It's a little harder to do that with like tobacco or, so it's really, really useful. So if you really want to geek out with yourself or your friends, whatever, it's kind of a fun thing to go through and have it when you do, and sip on red wine and educate yourself, but also kind of blind tasting. It's kind of fun with it. So just something I would recommend for people that are interested. But anyway.
That's very cool. I'd only ever heard of using fruits.
Well, white wine is so great for that. White wine is amazing. Sure, I'll tape it out. For the grocery store, it's perfect. You can get fennel, and I do it. I'm sure I look like a creep, and I don't do it during COVID.
No, right. That's the downside. There's a lot of downsides to this, but I always tell people, especially when you're going through like the local farmers markets, grab anything, just rub it, smell it. What is that? There's a big difference between a fresh violet, a dried violet, anything, flowers. It doesn't matter. It's just, grab it, get the essential oils on your finger and smell it, understand the differences between everything. And how do you relate that back into the wine? If you really want to geek out into something, even going outside during that rainfall in the summertime, you smell that, the rain hitting the hot sidewalk, or if you got a asphalt driveway, smell that. What is that? Slate, marble, anything. What's that smell? Really get into it. And again, relate that back into your glass.
I love how passionate you are, Chris. normally I'm just like a psychopath on my own and like a tornado wine thing. You're
No,
like just as nuts as I am. It's really awesome.
we all are. I mean, that's the fun of wine like this. And as a group, we could geek out on it like this. And
Yeah,
it's not pretentious. It's really,
I don't think
we're
so.
all showcasing different passions. You bring a different passion, Carol does, and all of our attendees today, they all bring different passions to this, and we all learn from each other. And that's the beauty of what we do at our store. Is really try to accentuate, the passion we all have. All of us have this inherent passion about wine. That's why we're here today. And bring it out. Let's talk about it, and it doesn't matter what certifications you have, who's a sommelier, who's this, who's that. I have certificate. It doesn't matter. It's just, let's talk about this. Let's geek out about this, and again, Carol will kill me on it. One class we did, I said, it smells like pickle juice, and it was an Albarino.
Mm.
And people went ballistic because that's what it smelled like. And how can you tell me I'm wrong?
Yeah,
That's how I related to it, and
I like pickle juice.
I do too.
you might like pickle juice. See,
I like
Pickle-
pickles.
Well,
pickle
I mean,
juice is a good marinade for chicken. So
Well, Albarino is so salinity, right? Typically, it's always
Yes.
grown on the coast, so
Yep.
that makes perfect sense. Of course, something that is always grown by water, typically,
Yep.
is going to have a saltwater
Or is it- yep.
essence, and so pickle juice is literally that kind of. I mean, that makes perfect sense to me. But yeah, no, I can tell it's great, and I wish that we were all doing this in store together. Hopefully sooner than later, but
Right. Yep.
it is so
Right.
cool that you're doing this. But anyway,
Here we are.
but yes,
This
but you're
isn't
right.
bad either. I mean, here again, we just had somebody from California. You're in New York. All
Yeah.
of us are scattered throughout Connecticut. And I think there's beauty in that too. I mean, we could do this at the store level like we were doing before COVID, but to pull this all together, and we've done tastings like this on a Sunday where the daughter was in New York City, the father was in France at the vineyard, the chateau in France, and to be able to do all that, I mean, you can't do that in store. So to pull it
No.
virtually like this with the technology that we have now, it's incredible. And I a lot of us that are here really enjoy it. I mean, we're in the privacy of our own homes. We could, there's probably some people in the group not even wearing pants, and you're just relaxed. You're at home and you're having a great old time.
Yeah, love
But
that.
yeah, no, it's good. And let's go back to the Pinot.
Yeah.
Something you said first and foremost, you can see through the Pinot. And there's a winemaker out in California. If you ever go back out there or reach out to her, her name is Faith Armstrong. And when she came into the store years ago, she poured her Pinot. And I said, "What do you do to this?" And she's laughing. She goes, "What do you mean?" I said, "I could see through it." And she's laughing. And she gets into the whole thing with California winemakers and how they're succumbing to the mass marketed idealistic Pinot out there. She's like, "I don't do that."
No.
Because I'm so fickle with my Pinot. It's in an entire separate building. And that's what I loved about the Pour en Plat Pinot. It held true to that form. It didn't succumb to what the masses dictated.
Yeah.
And you could see through it. That's a big thing with any Pinot I drink. I'm like, "Oh, it's real Pinot." It's the first thing I do. I look at it and go, "Oh, look, real Pinot."
And you should be. And you should be, because as Pinot Noir grapes get more expensive every single year, and Mr. Harper grape and all, it is the most delicate and softest of all, but it is rising prices, California in particular, sadly, with all the wildfires and things. All of the grapes and wine are going to go up, but people are mitigating the price with Syrah or Zinfandel, which grow wildly in California in that sort of hot heat, which of course is much inkier. That's, for those that aren't, maybe, I'm sure you all do know why we're saying this, but when you can't see through it, it's typically because they're adding something that's much inkier wine. I think it can be up to 85% Pinot and 15% something else, and you can still just put Pinot on the label.
Right.
So unfortunately, there are folks that want to cut corners with the price and make something a little bit more affordable, but it'll just say Pinot Noir on it, but 15% of it's probably Zin or Syrah, and those grapes are so different flavor-wise, too. Much more earthy, much more robust than a delicate Pinot Noir grape. So that is what we mean when we say being able to see through it, because it's so obvious when it is Pinot only and not.
There's a producer, and I love him. I mean, I love the producer. He's out of Oregon, and he came in with a new brand extension. Not to derail from this, but just going what you said. And it was so far-fetched from Oregon Pinot, Willamette Valley Pinot. And I looked at him, I said, this tastes more like California Pinot. He goes, yes, that's what we're going after. I'm like, but why? You have your own style. Why would you do that? He goes, because that's what the market wants. I'm like, what are you doing? It blew my mind that you're taking such a great reputation, a great region of Pinot, and you're just bastardizing it.
Which is much more Burgundian, I would think.
Very much so, yeah.
Which is like, Burgundy Pinot Noir is
right.
$100 bottles. Why would you already had the ability to make, because of your weather, more Burgundian style, and then make it California? I mean, I'm laughing, and it seems ridiculous to me, but here we are.
But that's right. Here we are, right? But again, where's the AVA on this? Is where Santa Barbara, correct?
This is Santa Barbara. Yep. And I have a few fun things to say. This one is destemmed and fermented in a closed top tank with pump overs. So occurring once a day. The goal was to preserve, I'm just reading off the tech sheet, which I'll show you guys, but because Bobby's not here, but the goal was to preserve the freshness and fruit without over extracting too much tannin. This is a slightly more generous Pinot Noir. However, it still maintains freshness due to its natural acidity. And I can pop this up really quick if you guys just want to take a quick look. Hopefully it will be fast. Okay. This is the technical information for this, guys, if you need it. Obviously the food pairings, as you can imagine. I actually do Pinot Noir with duck a lot.
Do you really? Okay. Just because of the acidity?
It's because I love doing duck with a raspberry or cherry compote. I feel I feel like so often duck is served, like even think about duck sauce at Chinese food. Usually what is served with duck is a sort of fresh fruit, tart fresh fruit. So I like doing that with a Pinot. I think it's perfect. That raspberry hit, the cherry hit usually is like a really beautiful.
So I take the syrupy juice from the Luxardo cherries that we use to make Manhattan. So I glaze duck with that.
Exactly.
No, I love it. Fantastic.
Yeah.
No, good
pairing. And then a Pinot Noir with that, it's just perfect.
Now I can see it. Yep, absolutely. Okay.
That's my preference. But obviously the food pairings there, cheese, cured meats, of course, lamb and ribs, but it's duck for me. Hopefully you guys all got to take a quick look at that. And I can attach this to an email if you want to send it out, if anybody has additional questions or whatever. That's totally fine.
Absolutely. Sure.
Okay, cool.
So in the comment box, everybody, while Lauren's describing this, I mean, just put in what you're tasting, what you're smelling with this wine. I mean, again, it's just, Carol and I wouldn't have brought these wines in unless we thought they were exceptional, especially at the price point. And for everything out there, I mean, the Meiomi at $20 a bottle, I don't think touches this at all. It's cherry on the nose, vanilla, cocoa. Yeah, absolutely. I think Meiomi is so far-fetched from what it used to be 15 years ago. It's one of those wines, and not to crap on other products in this, I'm not trying to do that, but it's its own animal now. It became its own style and its own brand that it's really stretched far away from what California Pinot is. And
so I am not going to go in too hard on this, but 32 grams residual sugar in one bottle of Meiomi, that is more than Coca-Cola.
Yes, there you go.
Just going to say that you can find that information on the internet. You just have to search for it. 32 grams of residual sugar.
But you taste it when you drink something like that. It's like, oh, what is this?
It tastes like soda.
It's saturated. And
sorry if you guys like it.
Yeah, no. If people like it, go ahead. I mean, we have good friends of ours, and when they hear me bastardizing Veuve Clicquot, they chime in. They how can you say that? Or even Whispering Angel. And it's like, because we taste so much wine in this industry every week. We taste so much wine, and everybody here, you taste so much wine. And when you go back to these mass marketed brands that are known for their category, and I say, Kendall Jacks for California Chard, Meiomi for Pinot Noir, Kim Crawford for New Zealand Sauv Blanc, there's so much better stuff out there. And it's like when you really get into the nooks and crannies of all these different wine, there's so much wine out there. You just skim the surface of what is offered out there sometimes. And we talked about it with Brandon before we opened up the class. Some of these restaurants that just succumb to these mass marketed labels for their wine list. It's like there's so much better stuff out there. Porter and Plot is doing a killer job. Why isn't this on that list? It's dig down deep, and this is why we like promoting these smaller brands, because the quality is there. It's so far exceptional than any of these people with higher advertising budgets. It's incredible.
Yeah, you have to remember when you're making that much wine and spending that much in advertising, like how much are you actually spending on the wine?
Right.
You know, it's something to remind yourself. Exactly,
Yeah, right.
Brandon. Exactly.
It's all weight and balances. Yeah.
You have to understand where the money is going. And I even have a little bit of a weird, I'm not going to put this on you guys, but I find myself like asking my friends to just make sure that they stay above $15 at times on wine. And that's even just because taxes, like on a bottle, is like half that bottle is you're paying for taxes. And I don't want to go into a diatribe about this because I have a lot to say about it, but you know, the difference between 12 and 16 is a lot more wine for your money. So I try to remind people of that too. There is a huge quality difference between 12 and 16 because you pay taxes the same amount no matter what's in the bottle. And if it's a set price, you have to remember, like, you know, like the shipping and the inbounding and all that, those things. Like sometimes when you do buy a less expensive, and that's totally okay. It's obviously I'm not trying to be a wine snob, but you have to remember that even just a couple extra dollars more does really mean such a difference in the scale of the quality of wine. So the fact that that Chard is at 16 is amazing for that price. I mean, it's just awesome. Anyway, I'm not going to go too far into that. I'm not going to be preaching people to be buying $40 bottles of wine. That's not what I mean. But you really, the 15 and above, you can be sure that you're not just like kind of putting the money into the bottle. It really is a different quality.
Yeah. I agree. Good.
I think
Anything else with the Pinot, everybody in the chat room? How are you loving the Pinot? Price point of the Pinot, we're at 18 for the Pinot. And it's
awesome.
It's worth every dollar. I mean,
yeah.
We just sold the last bottle of Camus we've had, and we've had it for a while. And it's just, I can't, anytime anybody comes in, it's just case in point. Anytime somebody comes in looking for, you know, an expensive Cabernet, that is the last thing I point to people, because I don't think it's what Chuck Wagner started off making. I don't think any of his wines are what he started off making.
Yeah.
They're nothing like that anymore. And if people like it, I understand. I get it. Trust me, I get it. But there's, again, for what we do in this industry, we taste so many wines, and it's like there's so much more out there. There's a gentleman I talked to that lives out in Central Coast, California, and he's a wine blogger, and you know, he's a restaurant blogger, and he tastes all these phenomenal things, and he says the same thing. He's like, why are you buying this? Again, it's availability, it's consistency, and I understand that, and there's a lot to be said about that. But to taste something really that's curated like this and created like this at this price point from these smaller appellations, and you know, really hands-on, and it's really detailed to where this thing comes from, I think that's so much more special. You know, it's like generalizing Connecticut pizza. You know, everybody says, or New Haven pizza, generalizing this. And I say this with every wine class, and it helps people understand what we're talking about. You generalize New Haven pizza, and you could throw everybody's name in the hat of Connecticut, New Haven style pizza, to really dial it down to each individual landmark spot on Worcester Street or downtown New Haven, whether it's bar, modern, everybody else. Everybody has their own style, so it's really about finding your own palate and really identifying what you like. And if you really like that $80 bottle of Camus, then go for it. That's on you, and I can't knock you for it. People like it.
To blow your mind,
blow your mind. Yeah.
Camus is great, but $80 can blow your mind.
It'll blow your mind.
Yeah. And if you which it sounds like people trust you, which is awesome. So I think you're probably pointing everybody in the right direction that's here and otherwise.
Yeah. But. So I said there's Pinot, like Canero's Pinot's at 25. Yeah. Right. These wines over deliver. And that's what we're talking about. They over deliver. Anytime you could get something like this under $20 that tastes like this, that's over delivering. It's just crazy at the quality that's in this bottle.
It's awesome. This is so nice. I wish that Ryan and Bobby could, maybe I'll just send them when it's uploaded.
Yeah.
I think that this is pretty powerful. It's nice to get a pat on the back from strangers, especially now. Everybody needs a little extra love, and I'm sure that hearing all these beautiful things would really make their day. So
can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
So how often are Pinots blended? You had mentioned earlier that, and I've heard of this, that they're blending with Zinfandel or Syrah. Yeah. I mean, is that pretty common now in the Pinots you see, or is it more in the lower end Pinots, or do you see? But I don't know if you can offer any guidance or thoughts on that, because the thing I like about this is like it really is more like the traditional Pinots. It's lighter. It's not got the depth, and I think the depth you get, from some of these ones are more because they're blending it with something bigger, like and stronger, like a Zinfandel.
Well, I'm just going to pop in really quick, and I'm sure Chris can, because he knows way more. I just am so focused on WINC, so we don't do it. So I don't know the percentage. I'm sure he has a better idea of how many he sees, right? Because he gets way more accessibility. But what I will say about Pinot, if you guys already don't know, that it's called the Heartbreaker grape. And that's because it is the thinnest skinned grape of the reds. I'm sure that you've all heard this before. But what that means is that there's not like an armor. The skin of a grape is armor from weather. And without being able to have this extra layer, it needs its sort of like perfect conditions all the time. Like it, and the reason it's a heartbreaker is because so often it goes wrong. So the thinness of the skins is obviously the thinness in the wine, the see-through that's completely related. So again, no Pinot Noir should not be able to be seen through just by nature. There's no really way to make 100% Pinot that is inky. That just isn't in its nature. So as you mentioned, yes. And then the ones they are adding are Zin and Syrah, because I touched on it briefly, that they sort of grow like wildfire in, maybe that's not a nice thing to say. Oh, California, sorry.
Wrong word.
Right. It grows like a weed in California. And with those in particular, Zinfandel is black, inky.
Yes.
It like looks like squid ink. So it's so noticeable, of course. That's definitely your first clue if it's happening. Zinfandel in particular. Syrah is going to be black pepper, like very, very spicy, which is not typical Pinot Noir flavor. Pinot Noir is much more delicate and nuanced. So you can tell right away when it's not 100% Pinot, even if the label says, as I told you, it can be 85% Pinot and 15% can be Zin or Syrah, and that's not Pinot Noir anymore. But so I don't know, Chris can probably answer this much better, how often he sees that, but I will say you'll know right away, which is kind of nice, even though you already bought the bottle and now you're sad. But Chris, do you know how often you see that?
I mean, a weekly, I don't know the percentages, so I'll put that out there. But on like a weekly basis, from Carol and I, from what's presented to us every week, I mean, we're bombarded with, you pick a varietal, but Pinot seems to be the more popular one. And her and I have, we're very discerning. We're discerning about any wine, but it falls into different categories. It falls into what we like and what we think people will like, whether it's indicative of the region or whatever. And then it's, what the general public may like. And there's brands that people like. Mm-hmm. And we bring them in because they're familiar with people. And bottom line, a lot of people don't like to interact with anybody. And we understand that, being in retail for so long as her and I, people just, for whatever it is, they just don't want to interact with anybody. They just want to come in, buy, and go home. And, we understand that. So we have to put familiar labels on there. So you will see a bunch of familiar labels on our shelves, and we'll bring them in because they're not super offensive. And when I say that, we're just using Pinot as an example. If I drink a Pinot and I just taste like cinnamon, sugar, cherry, it's like, ugh, and if I could tone that back a little bit, and it's a brand name that, falls into a price category that we need, that people will, that people like, it's a brand that people like, we'll bring it in, just because people like that brand, they like that style, and it's at that price point. Then there's all the other stuff that her and I geek out on. Like I brought this one in from Santa Rita Hills. It's all minimal intervention Pinot.
Yeah. Oof.
I love the stuff. I love it. I mean, you talk about translucent, you pour this wine, you see the back of the piece of paper behind it. And it's incredible Pinot. So when you're talking about that, it's always Willamette Pinot for me. It's always, specified regions of California Pinot for me and Carol. And then, the stuff that everybody else likes. And that's not offensive. It's just, there's stuff that people like that we bring in. So percentage wise, I couldn't tell you, but there's a lot of stuff we say, get it out of here. This is pure hot garbage. Get it out of here.
I bet Ryan and Bobby know because they
probably.
I'll text them and just see what percentage they think it's at. It's going to be higher than you expect is what I would guess.
Yeah. So
A
we
lot
had
of
a
people
question. Do they have to say what else is in the Pinot? No, they
No.
don't. It goes for any wine in the United States. I think, is it Oregon? Oregon's very strict, and Washington State, to a degree, is very strict. I think it's with their Cabernets that are very strict as to what percentage. They have a higher percentage that they allow. So California, I think it's common base. It used to be 75%, but now it went up to 85.
I hope.
Yeah. No, and you're correct, because
Okay.
again, there's a friend of mine out on the West
Okay.
Coast, and she teaches wine as well, and it creeped up to 85. So
85 is what French does too.
Yes.
So to be fair, France also allows that percentage as well. So that is a French mile marker as well.
Yeah, that's the 85% rule. When I took my certification course, it was 75%, but now it's 85. So whatever is declared on that bottle, and we'll say Cabernet for the point of argument, we'll say Cabernet. So 85% has to be at least Cabernet, and everything else, I call it like hot dog filler. And most people don't know that. They just say, oh, this is all Cabernet. But when you really get into the text sheets of this thing, it's Malbec, Petit Verdot, and whatever else, or Merlot is in there, and people don't know that. But you're generally drinking a field blend that's dominant in Cabernet. And that's the case with a lot of wines out there. And it's just, I wish things were more transparent so people could see that, and then they would understand what Europe does, and it'd be more acceptable to drink Merlot if people really understood Merlot and what its capability is.
I love Merlot. Can we all just put that to rest? I think it's delicious. It's so sexy. It's velvety. It's blueberry. It's dark chocolate. It's like a little hedonistic. I don't know. Like, I think we all need to get over sideways. Let's move on. Like, it's a delicious grape. It's fine.
Yeah, I brought that up because somebody made a sideways comment about the Pinot.
Yeah.
And, right. This is Pinot. What you're tasting now is Pinot before sideways became the thing, and it crapped on Merlot, and it pushed the value of Pinot sky high. I can remember this article. I forget what newspaper it came from, but it talked about these vineyards out in like Sierra foothills and everywhere, where they uprooted all these old vines.
150-year vines.
Yes,
150-year-old vines.
Just to plant Pinot
Paul
Noir.
Giamatti movie, people.
Right, just to plant Pinot Noir because it was commanding a higher price point. It's like, what are you doing? What are you doing? All these like Rhone style varietals you just gutted. It's just gone just to plant something because of popularity. I mean, I get it. You're cashing in on a crop, on a fad, and then it's just like what what happened in Australia with Shiraz. It was a popularity movement, a brand, and they were creating these styles that weren't even indicative of what Pinot is, or Shiraz, or what Zinfandel is. I mean, you name it. It just gets bastardized with everything in mass media. That's why it's good to go back to something like this and taste it with you all,
Yeah, I'm WINC. I've been putting a push on us to do a really cool Merlot. I think it won't be the highest purchased wine ever on earth because of this sort of stigma, but I think it's time to make Merlot cool again. Like, I'm like so tired of whatever. It was a movie, and he only didn't like it because his ex-wife drank it. Like, it has nothing to do with anything, and it completely changed the entire California wine industry forever. I'm talking forever. 150-year-old vines. You can't redo that. I'm sorry.
What's that, Carol?
I never saw the movie, so I have no idea what you're talking
about. I'll let you borrow it.
He just yells about it once.
Once. He just. And he's not. What's that?
Good movie, though.
Great.
Yeah, I gotta watch it.
Good movie, but the only thing he said was.
Yeah,
but the only thing he said in that movie was, I'm not drinking any Merlot. He just didn't want to drink Merlot that night for that occasion. That was the only thing he
chugged the spit bucket.
Chugged the spit bucket,
yeah. Like, who cares what this guy has to say? And then 150-year-old vines, guys. Think about that. Generational vines got ripped out of the earth to plant fresh Pinot Noir because of a movie. Like, talk about America, but anyway, like, it's insane. Oh, I could go on forever, but WINC is going to work on Merlot. I think that would be really cool. Ryan or Bobby making it. It'll be nuanced and beautiful. I just love that fresh blueberry. I don't think there's another wine that like has that basket of blueberry flavor that Merlot does. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
sometimes you find it. I mean, it depends. It just depends on where it comes from. Sometimes I get it from like Monastral in Jumilla, Spain. You get that really bombastic. It depends on the winemaker and everything else. And you get that like oversaturated, like blueberry jelly jar nose on it.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah. But yes, you're going to ask about that. Yeah. I'm annoying and I've been asking for a bunch of stuff for 5 years, but I usually get my way, which is nice. I just have to like push a little harder. I think that I'll get my way on this Merlot, and we'll keep you guys posted.
Yeah.
As soon as I hear. Hopefully it'll be a Porter and Plat. I think that would be the right.
Probably right. Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I agree.
But we move to Cab, and I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, we're already going over time. I can
That's all
talk
right.
forever. So
Yeah, no, I mean this is the problem with our classes, our online classes, and even our in-store classes. You know, I have the diarrhea of the mouth syndrome, and I go crazy, especially as we get, you know, knee deep into a bottle. You know, there's just so much to explore in these things. And when everybody here is like a sponge, they really try to absorb this knowledge and just experience that we all have. Everybody has this inherent experience, and you know, everything. To share that's why these go long sometimes. And there's nothing wrong with that for the most part, unless you got dinner on the stove, then there's a problem.
Yeah. Apologize for those people.
Yeah, go right onto the Cab. Yeah, Leslie and Mike already went on there.
No, literally, I could talk my way out of a paper bag. So like, just tell me to shut up. Like,
the Cab is from Paso Robles, correct?
It is. Yes.
Okay. For whatever reason, I thought it was from Santa Barbara.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Wait.
No, that's not on you. That's on me. I just took the wrong notes down.
Yeah,
when I was tasting the wines. Yeah. I just got everything mixed up that day. And I was like, Santa Barbara Cabs, I know they're out there. And I know like Martin Ray has one. I believe Martin Ray's Santa Barbara. And it was like, they're not my favorite style of cab. But when you get into Paso Robles cabs, again, I can't even say Paso Robles is up and coming. Paso Robles just sits in the shadows of Napa and Sonoma. But for the people that live out there, like this gentleman I talked to out in this region, he's like, no, this is all I drink. Paso cabs. They're not the rock stars and celebrities that Sonoma and Napa are, but they're phenomenal Cabernets. Even take Justin out of that fold, because Justin is a dominant winemaker in Paso Robles. And I'm not a fan of his Cabernet, but there's other smaller producers like what you're tasting now that are exceptional. They're really exceptional for what they are. For Cabernets out here. I think it's the best of both worlds. It's the best of what Sonoma and Napa make. And you get that in Paso. It's its own style, and people have to understand it's its own style. And if it's something you like, keep pursuing.
A little grittier too.
Yeah.
Do you get that? Like a Paso cab is a little grittier in a good way.
Yeah, in a good way. Absolutely. Yep. Like the first time we saw, 15 years ago, when more Paso identified cabs were coming to the market out here, when they were declared on the label, they were a little more rich, a little more fruit forward. But now you're showing that restraint, and you're showing that real talent that this area can produce. And that's what I love seeing. I could say the same at Lake County. Lake County, there's a couple producers out there that make phenomenal cabs. And I used to tell people, just like with the Paso cab, it's like, watch these producers, get away from Napa and Sonoma for a little bit. Watch these two AVAs, because they're phenomenal. You're getting substantial Cabernets, overperforming Cabernets at fractions of their rock star brethren out there.
Mm-hmm.
And
it's a third of the price.
Right, yep. Third of the price, at least.
And I know that, you hit the nail on the head. There was a little bit of like a nose up about Paso. It's not right on the water. I don't know. I don't really get it. I guess anything that wasn't a Napa cab in California had to go through their growing pains. But Napa cab is now a runaway freight train into a direction that I don't think we all necessarily agree with. We've said this now a few times, that there's these big guys that are kind of just creating a flavor profile that isn't even really a flavor profile. It's like something made up, a post-production sort of flavor. And I think that when you get into the Central Coast, you still have this like real heartfelt, real wine tasting wines, if that makes sense. Something funny I can tell you guys always, and I taste it here too. You can always know a Paso cab because hopefully you guys can taste it and then still untaste it, but it'll always have a cherry cola quality. No matter what, it tastes like a cherry cola. Not so much, it shouldn't be like sugared, but if you guys ever had like a cherry Coke, tell me now you don't taste it. It's like it will always have this like very cherried Paso. That's like the Paso thing.
I like when somebody like yourself mentions something like that, and I'm looking through the audience here, people are laughing and smiling. It's like, right, because you can identify with that. There's some obscure flavor profiles that, whether it's sommeliers or these WSET people that, wine influencers try to throw out there. It's like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But cherry cola, who hasn't had that?
All had it.
Throw it out there. It's like, wow, I know what that means.
Yeah.
And you start going down that rabbit hole. You're like, wow, I picked that up, and you laugh about it because it's something you didn't think of, but maybe you did, and you were afraid to mention it, but somebody like Lauren mentions it, and you're like, I pick it up. I'm not, I'm not going to doubt myself again.
Yeah, and you shouldn't, because you're not going to be able to smell like a cut rubber ball that often, or like a cut garden hose, which we all love to hear.
Right.
When's the last time you're going to cut a garden hose? Never. So those sort of descriptors are fun and funny, and but let's talk about wine in a real way. And that's why I think wine doesn't have to be as scary. I think pretentiousness makes it scary, but those people suck. Yeah. So you can make wine be normal vocabulary words. It doesn't have to be these like really bizarre. I mean, wet rock, I do love that one. Yeah. I don't go around licking wet rocks that often, but I get it.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of with what you're saying, but to the other extreme, and I talked to Carol about it the other day, there's these what they call wine influencers out there, and I beg people, don't listen to a lot of them. They dumb it down so much, and you listen to it, it's like, stop. What are you doing? I mean, there's some degree where you have to insert some factual stuff in there, but not to keep it so pretentious. Again, just what we're doing here. We're having an open discussion about these wines, and it's fun, it's engaging, and it's learning from each other. But it's not dumbing it down so much where it's like you're reading, something a fourth grader wrote, in that profile, and dumbing it down to that extreme. I want to inject some sort of credibility to it, but keeping it fun, keeping it engaging, and keeping the conversation rolling like we're all friends. We've been hanging out for years, and we're sitting at Sunday dinner, and we're just tossing it around. And that's what these are all about. And again, what Lauren brings to the table too. She fits right in with our group. It's great.
Thanks. Keep going. I'm here all day. I think that I'm sorry.
No, I'm reading the descriptions. Cassis, fresh red berries. This is the quality you want in cab. You want that cassis. Yeah. Somebody said some tamarind in this.
Yeah, I get that. Sure.
Yeah.
I get that. Absolutely. Tamarind to me also tastes like cherry cola. Maybe I just drank a lot of cherry cola in my life, but I feel like they're very similar in flavor profile, that very tart red fruit.
Yeah.
I just had a tamarind margarita yesterday, so. I know.
Somebody's ears perked up.
But it's so cold.
And just what Leslie and Mike are saying, they agree with Brand. You're going to find someone that you agree with their palate. Whether, again, the dynamic between Carol and myself, just at the store level, it's crazy between what people like from her, what they like from me, or who likes in between us. If I could understand Carol's palate and she understands my palate, she would say, oh, you would like this, Chris likes this. And I say the same thing. Oh, you want a Chardonnay? Carol likes this Chardonnay because I know you like her palate. That's the dynamic. Her and I don't always agree on a wine, and that's a good thing. That's what you want when you walk into a purveyor. You don't want somebody that agrees on everything. But when we do agree on a wine,
sparkling.
Sparkling wine is the catalyst for everything. Her and I agree on probably 99% of every sparkling we bring in. But it's a good dynamic because you as a consumer get that rounded description, the good, the bad, the ugly of everything, and she'll say, I don't think it tastes like that. And, her and I will, go, tooth and nail with, oh, it tastes like that. No, it doesn't. I taste this. And as you, the consumer, you're sitting there hearing that, like, no, I want to try it now. That sounds interesting. You guys are going back and forth. I want to try it now for myself to see what I come up with. And that's the fun part about wine.
Love it. I want to, Brandon just reminded me to mention all of these wines. Kind of escaped me recently, but they are all certified organic grapes, and they're all farmed sustainably. Probably should have been talking about that this whole time. Sorry.
That's a game changer for us.
Sure. All of our wines, you can trust WINC with that. That's pretty much our standard.
Is it really? Okay.
And sustainably farmed. Yep.
Okay.
I can't think of any wines of ours that aren't that.
See, that just adds to the credibility of everything. And again, when people are asking price points, yes, yes and no. You don't want to be so fixated on price points because price has a lot to do with a lot of different things, but don't let that dictate to you how great of a wine this is.
Mhm.
All right. Because there's some great $10 bottles from Europe out there that, you know, when you taste them, it's like, wow, this is incredible. And, you know, you say, oh, it's $10. You're like, oh, come on. But, you know, in the United States, to have something that's sustainable, organic, by anything, you name it, it's like, wow, under $20, that's insane. Right. It's insane. Drink this instead of this. You
Mhm.
should be drinking this. It helps so many more people out, small businesses out. We're all about that. Does US have a bio label like you see in Europe? I don't think it's so defined. I mean, there's such a broad category. I mean, they have the USDA organic thing that you have to buy into, but then you have growers that are sustainable. You have growers that are biodynamic. Now you have this new category of minimal intervention guys and natural wines that really have no clear definition. It's such a broad category. I mean, we had winemakers in from what do you call it, from Lake County, and they're like, why do I have to pay into this? We've been doing this for, you know, years, you know. And he got really into the technical aspect of it and what it takes to be certified organic, and they just don't want to be, because it's a program you buy into just to get the label, and it costs a lot of money. And they've been farming that way for years, and it's like, you know what, we're just going to keep doing it this way.
It's very similar to this natural wine movement.
Yeah.
America has decided to like go full barnhouse funk. I think it's masking a lot of poor wines. I don't want to go down this rabbit hole because this will be 3 hours, but I know, but natural winemaking in Europe is a normal thing.
Right.
You know, the fact that now we're like, it's so hot in America, it's just because Americans really. And so, yeah, they don't really call it natural wine in France. They just always did it like that.
Right. Where do you live again? You live in the Brooklyn or Bronx?
I live in Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Okay. So we have a distributor that has some esoteric like French brands. I'm like, oh, what is this? And she'll call it Brooklyn hipster juice.
I know. I live in Williamsburg. I like live I live in the epicenter.
Yeah, you live in epicenter. Yes,
and like, look at me. I have a shaved head for God. Like, you know, like I am exactly what you think I'm supposed to look like. You know, it's like kind of laughable, but whatever. You know, being a product of your own environment, I guess. But yeah, it's like, it's incredibly hipster. It's like definitely like something that this could, you know, it's been turned into something else. But again, you don't see natural labels on these winemakers in France that have been doing it this way forever. It's sort of just an analogous to this organic sort of movement in California. You know, everything that we do is always organic and sustainable. But as you just mentioned, the buy-in, and it's just like it's a little bit more of like a pony show than we think. Like it's like kind of, it's just like someone else is just getting money off of you. So we've been struggling with putting it on our labels and we still are doing not that. We've been finding that our consumers are well informed by either themselves or the people in the stores. So we haven't seen it be like a defining moment that we must put this on our label, but we might soon. But again, it's as you mentioned, it's just kind of like a bunch of bravado for no reason. That's where we're at right now with that. But it is all organic and sustainably farmed, always.
Good.
Yeah.
It's good to know. Again, like Carol said, our consumers want to know, and for us to put it on the price tag, and you know, if they want to pursue it on their own to really research it after that, that's on them. As long as we're upfront and say, hey, we know from the rep, from the distributor, from the vineyard itself that they are what they say they are, that you know, we put it on the label. And Carol's been great about that. She's going through the whole store again just to really label that, because people want that transparency, especially with anything they're putting in their body, on their body, anything. They want to know what's going on with this. And it's a good thing, especially when you can find it super affordable and of quality, because there's a lot of products out there that they're garbage. We have a couple customers that buy it and it's a mass marketed brand that is known to produce organic wines, or sulfite-free wines, or zero, whatever you call them now. And the wine is not good. And it's like, just because it spells all those descriptors out, it hits all the bullet points of what that individual is looking for. And that if it makes that consumer happy, we're all about it. And that at the end of the day, that's what you want to do. You want to make the consumer happy. But again, you want to give them a little, insight and say, hey, try this instead. I know this hits all your bullet points, but you know what? This is the same thing, but you know what? They don't subscribe X, Y, and Z. Just try this instead. It may please you more, and that's what we try to do. So
I know you're not Total Wine, and that's the important part.
Oh, that's a bad word. Yeah, no, don't say that.
I know. I have to. It's a different thing. Shopping for you're shopping for groceries, fine, but it is different because as every single bottle is a product of water, soil, the winemaker, sunshine. It's insane. One little baby thing could change its entire everything. So I'm obviously wildly obsessed with that fact. And how could you know everything? So I find that it's so important to just ask. People just go into the store and just ask. See, hopefully someone's educated in the wines that are there, but that's your hope. But it's so important because you're really going to find something so special and new. The people that drink the same wine label over and over again, I understand that, I guess, if you are a creature of habit. I'm sure there are people out there like that, but to be then turning your eye on a million possibilities seems like crazy to me. So hopefully it seems that everybody here is pretty open-minded, because I know you guys have never heard of this brand before now. So thank you guys, at least for trying these, for sure.
Yeah. So before we conclude, anybody have any other questions for Lauren while she's here? You tasted 3 of their wines. Talking about branding and everything else, before we started the class, we're talking about Brandon, and it's I'd rather see this on a wine list, and I trust this brand, the Porter and Plot brand as a whole. If you look at this as a brand, I trust this. And to see this on a wine list, I would absolutely go for it. Just say, you know what, I'm in the mood for a Chard tonight. I know what Porter and Plot does, grab it, and to be able to trust that brand, I would trust this more so than some of the other mass marketed brands. They're very credible, and there's a few out there that I won't talk about, but they're credible. But this just exudes what they produce, I think. And just in packaging alone, it's just a better presentation. And if you like these wines, and I encourage you, if you have a favorite restaurant that you go to religiously, that you have a good repertoire with the owner, with the chef, mention it to them. Say, hey, we tried this Porter and Plot. It was exceptional. I think it would go with your cuisine. Mention it to them. Tell them where it comes from. This is how wines get into the hands of the restaurateurs. It's all word of mouth. And it's hey, I worked on the distributor side and the sales side. It's very tough to get into a restaurant. And Brandon could attest to this. Lauren could attest to this. To get into a restaurant it's crazy hard. Just to get the attention of the wine buyer or the chef or whoever's doing whatever at the restaurant level. It's very tough. But if you have their ear as a consumer and you tell them certain things, they'll listen to you, the consumer, versus a salesperson trying to make them a sales pitch. And it's very difficult on our end. But on a consumer end, they would listen to you. So if anything you taste, whether it's our classes or you buy in a shop, say it to a restaurateur. I really think you should try this. We could put them in touch with the distributor to really understand what these wines are all about.
I can send them samples myself.
So yeah, right. No, and
somebody reach out to either Chris or Brandon if you know him. I will personally send the samples to them. If you think that it should be on a list, no, I will pay for it. It's no problem. I'm happy to do it.
Yeah, and that's how we get the word out. That's how these wines expand their territory. And I want to see these wines on more lists. Talking to Brandon, he's like, yeah, it's in Fairfield County. I want to see it all over New Haven, and there's no reason why it shouldn't be, especially with some of the labels we see out there. Carol and I both go out, not extensively, but we do. COVID, no one's really going out anymore. But some of the restaurants we love to go to, it's like I would go here so much more if you had a better wine list. And it doesn't have to be, super expensive wines. It just has to be good. And I think Porter and Plot is exceptionally good without spending, your entire paycheck. It really expands beyond their price point. The quality in that bottle really expands beyond that price point. And that's not a sales pitch because we have Lauren in front of us. We have Brandon from the distributor here. It has nothing to do with that. I would never do these classes unless Carol and I stood behind the wines. It would be, I've attended tastings with people on social media where they sent me samples of the wine and they asked me to speak nice about the wine. And it was very hard. I don't get samples too much anymore. Let's put it that way. And the defining moment was I had some Franciacorta from Italy sent to me, and the thing was god awful. It was horrendous. And I couldn't say anything nice about the wine. I just said I tasted the wine and I wrote some descriptors about it. I didn't bash the wine, but it was god awful. And so, for Carol and I to do these classes, or any class, in store, virtually, I mean, the product has to be substantial. It has to be really good. And I think presenting this to you all, we're showing you value. We're showing you other options to what's out there, to what's, whether it's a wine list or, we're coming up on this year, somebody dropped the bomb that they're going to push for wine in grocery stores again. And it's going to be,
oh yeah,
it's going to be a crapshoot of what's going to go to grocery stores in Connecticut. And it's like, don't forget about these smaller producers. I know ease and convenience it takes precedence over, your time going to somewhere else to really pick, these smaller things out. But I want to put that in your mind and really pay attention to these smaller producers, these smaller companies, these smaller distributors, smaller wine shops, over the big mass marketed things, really keep it out there and make conscious choices of anything when you're out there, whether it's food, wine, anything that you're consuming, buying, make those conscious choices, because it really helps. I mean, it's like our own little food chain, it helps everybody. We keep everybody employed here, right down the line.
Can I ask a quick question, Chris?
Go ahead, Ed.
Lauren, this is great. We are all about supporting small producers and independent wine shops like Wine 101. We love it. I mean, this class is just amazing. I'm just curious, can you say a little bit about how the WINC club works?
Sure. Versus, or just that, that's
well,
not
how it works. Just how it works. I mean,
sure.
there are a bunch out there, and they're, there's wineries in the Finger Lakes that, you can join their club and they'll send you their wines.
Yeah. So one thing to say, every winery has a wine club, right? You can go on every single winery and basically get wine shipped to you. The only reason I say that is it's funny sometimes when you can imagine my side of it, I get a little bit of pushback from things because our wine club is so pronounced. We just do it very well, that sometimes there's some pushback with accounts. I get that. We're not your Chris's natural competitor. We're not, but I understand why they first thought. So let me just start there. Every winery, you can buy their wine from the winery. So that's WINC started as a club first. Ryan Zodovich making the wine. You didn't meet him. He met Bobby, as I mentioned. He kind of came later as Munch needed help. But and I might not know all the facts because again, I'm on the wholesale side. But we started a couple of years before I was there as a wine club. The idea was surrounded by the fact that at the time, and it still rings true today, I think that in California, so many wines are big labels with an agenda, which we've talked about a bunch of times. That's sort of driven by the wind of what people want instead of sort of a heart. There's so many wines that are just, if people like it, well, let's make it that way instead of it actually being what you want to make. There's not really a whole lot of integrity in that, I don't find. So Ryan and our two co-founders decided to make wine, and it centered around this wine called Folly of the Beast. It's our Pinot Noir, not this one. To bring real wine from California at a price that was like suitable for everyone. Right. So that's how the wine club started. And then Ryan was able to really, because he's born and raised in Central Coast, had all of these connections, so he could kind of source these beautiful wines and make a bunch of brands easily because he was born and raised there. His family is Zodovich Wines. It's a small winery, so it's really just in California. It's not a national brand, but it's incredible. Mostly Zin, Syrah, it's delicious. But so he was like basically like, birthed out onto a winery. So that's like been his life. So really lucky to have him. But that's how that started. It was definitely like approaching California wines to be stylistically accurate at a good price. And then it became so big. So many people really loved WINC, and as Chris mentioned, it kind of stands apart from so many others. a real winemaker and one winemaker with a voice was so different than what everybody else was doing. It became more wanted by everybody. And we kind of realized we needed to move to wholesale. And then I was the first employee for that.
Well, the biggest thing with the WINC thing is it's very transparent. So when you sign up for the monthly club, is what I did. I had 4 bottles shipped to us. I probably still have your 4-pack shippers in our back room. It was affordable, and the wines they were sending me, they curtail it. You fill out your thing and you create a flavor profile, and they'll ship things to you that they think that fit your flavor profile. And that's what I liked about them. So, to get, like, I had some bizarre California stuff shipped to me, but I was accepting of it because I wanted to try what they had. And it's stuff that the Gewürztraminer. Yeah. Where was that from? Monterey?
Yeah.
No, and exactly just what Lauren's saying. I remember these things, and there were some great French rosés that I had. I forget the names. Again, I think there was a what do you call it?
Sauvage.
Yeah, Sauvage. The Sauvage was fantastic. There was a lot of fantastic wines in that. But if you wanted to go buy them individually, there wasn't this absurd upcharge. Like, I'll tell people the story. I did the Wall Street Journal Wine Club, and I bought 30 bottles of wine for $180. So it's $6 a bottle, free shipping. And you got a big mishmash. I did the Italian white and red, assorted case, 30 bottles. And there were some good wines in that 30 bottle mix, but there was a lot of filler, like hot dog filler, white blends, Rossos, but things that really stood out. I had a Valpolicella that was outstanding. I had a Gave de Gave that was outstanding. To go buy that, $25, $30. I just paid $6. So how do now I got to pay $25. What WINC does is very transparent. Here's your price. And again, it's not a nominal upcharge if you want to buy that bottle again. It's a couple dollars here or there. And I thought I said, you know what? That was really good. And if I didn't open up the store, if I didn't have my own retail business, I would probably continue at WINC. So for those of you that already subscribe to our wine club, where we get the 6 bottles for $50, I mean, if you're looking for another wine club that is credible, I would do WINC. It's probably one of the only wine clubs out there that I would recommend. I mean, somebody on Instagram that I follow mentioned WINC today, and I'm laughing, and I hit her up on Instagram. I said, yeah, but you should support your local guy first. She's like, no, I will. I'm like, I totally support WINC, just because I could stand behind it because the wines were good. Especially, I had some great Spanish wines from you guys. Yeah. And from Navarro, and I forget the other ones, but they were really good.
Well, I want to say, first of all, we are in the Wine of the Month Club with Wine 101, and we're not going to leave. If we were to join another one, the reason I would do it is to get wines that I couldn't get elsewhere.
Right.
So,
yeah, right, correct.
And I've heard, I listened to a podcast that's supported by another wine club. She says it's really good, but I actually during this class, I went on to the WINC and did the flavor profile, because mine is different from my wife's. I like salt, she doesn't. But
Albariños.
But it gave me 4 wines. I just don't know what like the monthly.
Yeah, why don't you give either write it in the chat your email? I can send you a free box.
No,
I don't care. What do you mean? I don't care. Just I can send it to.
Right, I'm writing it.
Edit the boxes. Remember that I don't really know.
Everybody's email is coming up right now.
It's so fun. I know, I'm screenshotting it all so I don't lose it.
I really started something here.
Yeah, but again, I would never promote another business or wine club unless I can't knock it. I can't say anything negative about it. We had a good experience from it. And I can remember that summer where Carol and I were both unemployed. We just got laid off from the shop we were working at before we opened up our store. And the two of us would, every couple Sundays, we'd come together at her house with her husband and, bring the bottles and just try different bottles. And like, wow, this is really good. And it helped us. We did a variety of different wine clubs to help understand what other companies were doing and shipping out to people. That's how we cultivated our 6-pack for $50. And that's what we strive for each month, to really over deliver and give everybody a broad spectrum of what what's out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
right. About WINC. Yeah. No, I when something's good, it's good.
This is so nice, guys. I mean, sorry, I'm screenshotting all
I mean,
this.
first and foremost, you shop with us. But
Yes,
again,
as long
as a
as that's
supplementary
different
thing,
part. Yes.
again, somebody mentioned Gewürztraminer. Gewürztraminer is never a big category for me. And I know there's people out there that love Gewürztraminer. I mean, I'd love to talk to you about it. I talk to people about it, but it's like, I've never, and I'm not trying to single anybody out that likes Gewürztraminer, but it's like, I've never met anybody that's like diehard, bleeding Gewürztraminer. It's like, it's a good varietal. I understand its place in the wine world, and I understand how it works with food and that. But I taste some good ones out there. I bring them in. No one's like really looking for them. And I carry one or two at a time. It's a hard,
incredibly hard to pair with food.
It's like it's super aromatic.
Eating them.
We love it.
So floral.
We love Gewürztraminer.
I was going to say we were at the Finger Lakes, and I actually was having pasta, and I was going to have all reds with it, and the waiter had actually recommended a Gewürz, flight, and it was fabulous with the pasta, the pappardelle, and everything. It was amazing.
Right.
Yeah. It's really nice.
Wow.
It's a better food wine than just on its own. Like we tried them in the store, and then Carol and I will sit there and look at each other, and she'll look at me. I'm like, it's varietal correct. I said, you may not like it, I may not like it, but it's varietal correct. This is what Gewürztraminer is. And the same could be said about grapes like Tarantes. Tarantes is super aromatic. Maybe not so much as Gewürztraminer, but people have such a hard time warming up to Tarantes from Argentina. It's just like I can't always carry them. So like a supplemental club to really broaden your palate, and that's what we're all about. We're all about educating and everything. So to broaden your palate, to do like a WINC as a supplement to our wine club or anything, it really
as its only supplement. No, for real. I would like jump off a bridge if people like.
I think it's a good go-to. I would rather that than anything else that's out there. And there's a lot of them out there. You probably get bombarded with them in your social media feeds and everything. I do. And I have people that email me and say, well, what do you think about this? I'm like, I don't know how they get wines for $6. It's got to be garbage. I've done wine clubs for $6. They were garbage. But WINC is, whatever the price point is now, I don't remember. Again, it's been that long. But it's worth it. It's definitely worth it. And you do taste a broad spectrum of wines, just like what we do. And again, you're going to taste things differently than what we have. And again, because we're creating, again, when we're curating, we understand that people don't want Chardonnay. We understand what people don't like. But WINC may send you those things, and you're trying them. You're like, wow, that wasn't so bad. That really identified my flavor profile, and I would never have thought that I liked that kind of wine. And that's the beauty of it. And they have great note cards and everything else. And I probably still have them here somewhere in my, all my wine stuff. I probably have them stacked up here still. I think it's, what Lauren does and the company does is really good. And again, they are doing what we do at a different level. And I'm 10 minutes late for my monthly Zoom with a friend. So yeah, okay. No problem, guys. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
I'm gonna click off soon, and we'll talk soon. All right. Take care.
This is great as always, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
So yeah, before we conclude, I want to thank Lauren, thank Brenda for putting this all together.
Lauren, thank you so much. Beautiful, well-balanced wines. That's what I have to say. We always look for balance in a wine, and these are beautiful and well-balanced.
Yeah, they were
we
fantastic.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
No,
Thank
thank
you.
you guys. Hey, thanks for taking a Sunday night out.
Much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you guys. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
All right.
Oh, that was so lovely.
See? The wines are good, though. The wines are good. They speak for themselves.
Yeah, the cab blew me away. I do not like